Yo, what is up guys, it's Masso2010 here, and today we have another Warhammer 40k video. I know it's been a while since I've done the last one, but I thought, you know what, I haven't got another video lined up today, so why not? So we have the Salamanders explained by an Australian. Now, I believe the last one we did was the Space Wolves, and they were very cool. And given the trend of Warhammer, these guys are going to be just as cool because everything's cool in Warhammer so far. So you ready? Let's do this.
G'day guys and gal. Warhammer's a unique way of subverting expectation, whether it be making the leader of the good guys an undead skeletal tyrant, or a faction of berserk vampire super soldiers as a symbol of hope. Games Workshop really know how to keep us on our toes. No faction embodies this philosophy more than the Salamanders, an army of scary, bold men who have glowing red eyes and are obsessed with fire and incinerating their enemies.
Okay, so fire guys.
You know, super black. I mean, if you saw one of these dudes in real life, you'd be like, my anal orifice is about to get destroyed. So it's funny to think that these guys and their leader are some of the kindest and most compassionate people in the entire galaxy.
Oh, okay.
That isn't, you know, unless you're an Eldar child, but we'll get more to that later.
Wait, what?
In this video, we'll cover who the Salamanders are and what they're currently up to. We'll also cover the origins of their cuddly Jamaican Primarch Vulcan. I don't know why I'm spending the next 10 hours or so making this video. YouTube have their fist so far at my ass that already by saying the word black and scary in the same sentence, I'm probably already demonetized.
Probably.
Let's get into it. When the Emperor of Mankind decided the galaxy needed a good old-fashioned spanking by his glorious golden hand, he created 20 demigod children,
They look so cool.
each embodying one or more of his characteristics.
Yes. I know there's
the gods
20.
of Chaos did not like getting spanked, other than Slaanesh, and they used some hacks to scatter the 20 Primarchs across the galaxy. That's what the kids were called, Primarchs. All of them landing on weirdly specific planets tailored to them. The 18th Primarch was Vulcan, and he crash-landed on the volcanic planet of Nocturne, in the backyard of the local blacksmith. The blacksmith was like, hell yeah, free space slave, and adopted him as a son. Within 3 years, Vulcan had grown to the size of LeBron James, and had not only mastered everything to do with blacksmithing, but further improved upon it.
Wait, so he was
Nocturne had a bit of a
master
problem
blacksmithing?
though. Dark Eldar. The Dark Elder were jealous that Nocturne actually had people with dark skin on it, and weren't just pale edgelords that wore black armor, hence they were frequently raided and enslaved. At the age of 4, Vulcan's town was attacked by the Drukhari, so Vulcan was like, kiss my black ass. With only a blacksmithing hammer, he single-handedly killed 100 Dark Elder and drove the rest off, becoming the king of his planet instantly. The fastest to do so out of all the Primarchs, arguably. Especially compared to Angron, who could barely even escape slavery.
Yeah, because Dark Eldar, they're like the really bad guys, weren't they?
During Vulcan's
like the super bad ones.
celebration/coronation of saving his people from eternal rape, a stranger appeared and challenged Vulcan to whatever test he desired, with the winner pledging eternal loyalty to the loser. Vulcan agreed. For 8 days, both competitors drew challenge after challenge. Neither Vulcan nor the stranger could prove who had a bigger dick, although it was probably Vulcan for obvious reasons. Eventually, they reached the final challenge. Whoever went off and killed the biggest fire salamander would be the winner. Vulcan found a massive one and one-shot it with his hammer. As he was carrying it back, a local volcano erupted, knocking him off a ledge with only him surviving due to him grabbing onto a cliff with one hand. However, as he refused to let go of his salamander, he could not pull himself back up. Eventually, the stranger, carrying an even bigger salamander than Vulcan's, found him. The stranger discarded his salamander in order to save Vulcan. When the two godlike dudes returned home, Vulcan was declared the winner as he had brought his salamander back. Vulcan, however, knelt to the stranger and declared that any white man that saves a black man deserves our slave. The stranger then said, swell, and cast off his illusion and revealing himself to be the God Emperor of Mankind. Despite being a very noble and mentally stable Primarch, Vulcan did not immediately take command of the 18th Legion, then called the Dragon Warriors, as he instead chose to master all the knowledge he needed to beforehand, staying under the Emperor's direct tutelage for a time. When sighted by the side of an Emperor during the battle, he was described as a big dick green dragon as he learnt the ways of war.
So what though, it looks pretty cool.
Terran-born Salamanders had engaged in a costly war against a massive orc army, choosing to sacrifice their legion in order to save billions of lives. How very salamander of them. No other Astarte force was close enough to provide backup, so Vulcan chose this as his time to emerge. He shoved his big black Primarch cock deep within the arse of the Orc fleet,
Fucking
backed
hell.
up by 3,000 fresh Astartes from Nocturne. Sandwiched between two armies of angry black men, the Orcs stood no chance and were massacred to the last fungal spore. It's probably a good time to mention that the Salamander's intense pyromania was the ultimate weapon against the Orcs for obvious reasons. Vulcan and his sons all had a big group hug, and he took command of the Legion. This was not the only hugs that the Salamanders would deliver as they tore across the galaxy, hugging the fucking shit out of everyone's tits. If the world was chosen by the Emperor, they would receive kind and gentle hugs. If the world was a Xeno world, the hugs were a bit tighter, and usually it resulted in a broken spine. One such world was a planet called Faria, which had primitive humans who served some Eldar. The Salamanders backed up the Iron Hands and Death Guard and easily smashed the Eldar forces. However, they were disturbed to realize that the human population was sympathetic to the Eldar and tried to protect them. This isn't that confusing, as if we had a population of big titty Eldar girlfriends and some angry ass pyro black dudes try to murder them all, we'd be pretty pissed off as well.
Yeah, that's a fair
point. Had a bit of a streak of dealing with Eldar, first on his home planet and then a number of other compliance campaigns. His next major campaign was with the Night Lords on a planet of hostile humans who were apparently being mind-controlled by a small group of Eldar. Vulcan attempted to cuddle the enemy into friendship, however by the time they got there it was too late. Conrad and his edgelords had already got there first and had flayed most of the population of a city, broadcasting the entire scenes to the rest of the planet and causing mass surrender. The Eldar were taken captive, however due to some random fuckery they got out of their cages and ran into a crowd. Now, this is like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire type situation. Do you A. block the exits and chase them? B. attempt to capture at least one and use her to lure the other ones back? C. just let them go, they're just fucking children? Or D. open fire into the crowd, killing hundreds of civilians? Well,
I really hope it's
Vulcan was using his lifelines and considering how to cuddle an entire crowd of people, Conrad instantly locked in D, and his Night Lords massacred the crowd, killing all the Eldar bar one. In a rage at one of his mates being killed in the massacre, Vulcan incinerated the final Eldar child. Something that was pretty un-Vulcan-like if you ask me, but let's just roll with it. Vulcan wasn't super stoked about Conrad's lack of hugging skills and reported his dickhead tendencies to his other brothers, starting a rift between Conrad and his brothers. Not that, it really needed to start one in the first place. Not even his own sons, who were programmed to be loyal to their Primarch, liked Conrad. As we know, Horus, being the bold cunt that he was, decided that he would allow the four gods of chaos to gangbang his soul and become their vessel of destruction. But Major Kill, Vulcan is bold. Does that mean he is a cunt as well? Jesus Christ, Timmy, do you kiss your mother with that mouth? Not that you could anyway, because she's fucking dead, orphan bitch. Yes, Vulcan was bold as well, and yes, I often bag out bold people, especially this guy. However, here's the difference. Vulcan is black. Being black is
that makes sense.
Being white and bold makes you look like a neo-Nazi pedophile. That's my case. Horus culled his legion and declared war against the Emperor. The Salamanders, Iron Hands and Raven Guard were deployed to Istvan to deal with the traitors, whilst the Night Lords, Iron Warriors, Alpha Legion and Word Bearers were soon to arrive to support the Loyalist forces. The Salamanders took the left flank and engaged with the Death Guard in a wall of fire and death. A good thing to note here is that ever since his brief childhood, Vulcan was a master craftsman and has created some of the greatest weapons and armor the galaxy had ever seen. Wearing arguably one of the greatest suits of armor that had ever been made. Hence bolter shots bounced off him like they were made of rubber. Eventually the forces clashed in melee combat, with Vulcan stomping the literal tits out of everything within range, slicing them in half with a flaming sword or bludgeoning the shit out of them with his hammer. Vulcan gave no fucks as to how his enemies died. Gone was the time for hugs, now was the time for death. Angron's World Eater soon joined the fight in what can only be described as a literal blender going off. Angron himself challenged Vulcan to a duel. However, before Vulcan could accept, the ground around him exploded, killing everyone in the nearby radius. Obviously, except for Vulcan, he just kind of shrugged it off. He heard the arrival of the other four legions and felt a bit of relief that, he could pull his sons back considering how much of a clusterfuck the battle had been so far. Vulcan fell back and saw the Iron Warriors waiting for him. However, they did not want to hug him for some strange reason. Vulcan saw his brother Perturabo and realized, if they don't want to hug, then they gonna kill me. The Iron Warriors revealed their trap card and opened fire on the salamanders, killing hundreds within seconds. Vulcan
crap.
was hurt. Not from the gunfire, explosion or gas attacks, no. It was from the betrayal of his brothers that cut deeper than any wound could. Vulcan's feelings were hurt. Now there was hell to pay. Vulcan's entire legion was massacred with only a few surviving Astartes to escape that day.
Really?
Vulcan himself was virtually unkillable, tearing the traitors to shreds even as all of his sons were dead or routed. Even a nuclear bomb on his head couldn't put the big man down, as Vulcan emerged from the fire still fighting.
Yeah, and a nuke on his head?
And hundreds of dead traitors before Vulcan was eventually knocked unconscious and
is that literally or figuratively?
by the sadistic Conrad curse. As we have established, Conrad and Vulcan weren't on good terms, so this wasn't going to be a very cuddly experience. Conrad tortured Vulcan to death, but he survived. Vulcan was revealed to be a perpetual, which means it's almost impossible to kill him, and he will regenerate from virtually any wound. You would think this would be Conrad's wet dream, as he could just keep killing Vulcan. However, it was just frustrating for Conrad. He decided that if he couldn't kill Vulcan, he would mentally break him and prove that the other Primarchs were just as fucked in the head as he was. However, this did not work at all, as Vulcan proved time and time again to just be too much of a good dude for Conrad's bullshit. Eventually, Conrad put Vulcan in an impossible maze in which his Warhammer was located in. Vulcan did the impossible and beat the maze, finding his Warhammer and beating the shit out of Conrad with it, only sparing the emo fuck because he felt bad for him. He then used the teleporter hidden in the Warhammer to teleport into the upper atmosphere of Macragge. This was a bit of a rookie error by Vulcan, who then combusted into flames from a dramatic re-entry from orbit, before eventually crashing into the ground. Ouch. Now this part confuses me. Vulcan was tortured and murdered non-stop for months, yet his will did not break or his mind. However, the pain from audible re-entry did. Gee, I guess old-mate Vulcan just is scared of heights or some shit.
Couldn't handle the fall.
Anyway, the Vulcan that crash lands on Macragge is not a happy Vulcan and doesn't like hugs anymore. Very sad. While this has all been happening, a group of Xenos called the Cabal, basically a group of snobby wankers that turned the Alpha Legion traitor, have been planning the assassination of Vulcan using a frozen bit of lightning created by the Emperor raping Chaos a couple years ago. A perpetual man by the name of John was given this mission, and he nearly ended up succeeding. However, he changed his mind at the last second because Vulcan was just too damn likeable. Hence, he used the frozen Emperor mind rape lightning to put Vulcan in a coma and cure him of his insanity. It was a pretty convincing coma as well. And to do it, Vulcan still had to get impaled with the lightning, so everyone thought he was super dead. Vulcan was taken back home by the few remaining salamanders and given a funeral, but then woke up just as one of his commanders awkwardly incinerated himself. Yikes. Now, between 95% of the salamanders being dead and Vulcan being dead 95% of the time, the salamanders were the biggest losers of the Horus Heresy. Vulcan was a good sport though, and was still present in the Siege of Terra. Although the final books haven't exactly covered what goes down, other than Vulcan having built a doomsday device, which basically means that if the Emperor dies, then a big fuck-off explosion happens which blows up Terra and rapes anyone on it. We do know that Vulcan survived the Siege of Terra, and that he disagreed with the Codex Astartes, but accepted it to avoid conflict with Gulliman, and then he just kind of fucks off. Continuing the trend of loyalist Primarchs leaving for no apparent reason. Before he leaves, he scatters 9 special artifacts across the galaxy, and says that when the Salamanders have retrieved all 9 artifacts, he shall return to lead them. So far, 5 out of the 9 have been found, and are made up of mostly dope-ass war gear that the Chapter Master, aka the Forge Father of the Salamanders, uses. Now this is where Vulcan canonically disappears, however he reappears in the Beast story arc, which I'm not even sure people can call canon anymore considering how retarded it was. Vulcan is discovered on a planet full of orcs as he attempts to hug them all. He has regressed into a crazy senile state, and has been a bit of a clueless dick about things. It ends with him blowing himself and the Beast up before declaring he will return one day. But yeah, let's probably just pretend that what never happened. The Salamanders have taken a bit of a back seat recently, along with the Raven Guard and
who's that guy in the back?
Being decimated.
He looks cool.
Despite this, there's still a really interesting bunch of dudes
the one in the middle
that have continued fighting for the Imperium in a number of battles and wars, taking on and beating the Homunculi, Gene Stealers, Iron Warriors, Tyranids, and even Trance the Infinite twice. Trance really wanted to get his hands on the artifacts of Vulcan, which the Salamanders were obviously not super stoked about. They also took part in various Wars of Armageddon, so they're still kicking ass, however they're just not, the main characters right now. It looks like Vulcan will need to stomp his way back into action if the Salamanders want to get any significant screen time. However, with the Lion, Lehman, and even Korax all poised and ready to come back into play, it could take some time before we see Vulcan back in canon. Which is why I watch text-to-speech. That shit is great. And that does us for today, guys. The Salamanders and Vulcan's lore up to date. I don't need 2 parts for these cuddly boys, as they just aren't getting super fleshed out right now.
Oh, they seem really nice.
It's a shame, as they're arguably the most unique and original of the Loyalist Space Marines, and well loved by the community. This video is actually the most requested video I had at the moment, which just goes to show how popular these guys are. If you want to support the channel further, then consider jumping on my Patreon.
Oh, I don't think I want to see that.
Access to everything, including a boatload of Warhammer Hentai.
Do I want to see that?
If you guys...
Do I want to see that? No, I don't want to see that. Or maybe I do. Yeah. Okay. Right then, that was the Salamanders. Fire guys, their leader is an absolute beast that can't die apparently. Good Forge Master, and they're really nice people. Do I like them more than the Space Wolves? Now that is the question. Unfortunately, my choice is quite simple. I went online and saw that Space Wolves actually ride giant wolves, so yeah, they're still my favourite. But the Salamanders are really cool. Alright then guys, I'm going to call it here. God, there's literally so much lore on this. Like, I feel like there's more lore in this than there is actual game. But you know what, that's fine, I'm okay with that. I do like big sci-fi universes, and this one is fucking ridiculous. I mean, seriously, compared to the other shit, this is crazy. It's maddening. Alright then guys, it's been Massa2010 here. I will leave a link to Mage Kill in the description down below if you want to react to his stuff, or want to see everything else he's done. Yeah, please like, subscribe, and see you.